Welcome to Module 7. This module, we're going to talk about loneliness and social isolation. And so here we're going to be talking about, well, how do these constructs, loneliness and social isolation, impact health in individuals? And let's talk about some strategies for reducing loneliness among older adults, and then how we're going to recognize the role of caregivers and how they can support individuals who are older adults. And when I mention caregivers, these could be formal and informal caregivers, they could be family members, loved ones, could also be someone who's helping support another individual. It could be a neighbor, a person who's coming over, such as Meals on Wheels. Okay, so I have a very broad approach about what a caregiver is. So let's dive in. Now, people with a diagnosis of a serious mental illness, these are individuals with schizophrenia, spectrum disorder, bipolar disorder, and treatment refractory major depressive disorder, they experience 2.3 higher the rates of loneliness compared to the general population. Now, loneliness is very different than social isolation. Loneliness is a feeling that we experience. So think about this. You can be in a room with 30 people that are your best friends, but you can still feel lonely. So it's this personal experience where we believe our social connections aren't aligned with our need for sense of belonging. And so loneliness is an unrecognized dimension of health that has serious implications for cardiovascular health and early mortality as well. So look, the experience of loneliness when it's chronic, it actually does the same thing to the body as an individual as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So what happens is that the body will have an exacerbation of cortisol and stress and inflammation in the body when an individual is feeling lonely. And what that does, it creates an opportune environment for the development or the progression of these chronic health conditions for individuals. So it's very, very serious. So, when we're working with individuals as they are aging, and if we do this in a digital environment, we really need to create a welcoming digital space. So, if you're working with people within a community mental health center, what we know about those places is that individuals, 90% of them have experienced trauma in their life. Okay. So, they may perceive the world very differently than someone who has not experienced trauma in their life. So here, that's why it's important to create a welcoming space for an individual. So let me talk to you about the lonely brain. So here, let's look at this circle on the top. It's just the feeling and experience of loneliness. Now, let's say you have a perception, because maybe you've experienced traumatic life events, that you perceive the world in a different way than people who haven't experienced this event. And so if people have this feeling of loneliness, their filter or perspective might be that there's something wrong with me because I'm lonely. And then here they look out into the world with this filter of all their life experiences, and they could perceive certain things as a slight. So, for example, let's say you're interacting with a group, and then in the chat somebody asks a question, and you accidentally miss that question. If the person is already experiencing loneliness, they may perceive you not responding to that question as, "Oh, they don't like me. Oh, I deserve to be lonely." They could actually perceive that because of their own life experiences. And it's a perceptual distortion that somebody could have, even though you may have just missed the actual chat question in text. So it's really important to even consider those slight things could have a huge impact on an individual. Now, what happens when we have these perpetual distortions? An individual will retreat to protect themselves. And then what happens when we retreat from these group environments? Well, there might be social isolation, which is actually geographically separating ourselves from other individuals. Okay. And then that could also provoke more feelings of loneliness. So you see how it can be a cycle here. So how do we address loneliness and social isolation? Remember, loneliness is a feeling. So social isolation is geographically being separated from other people. Um, and here, evidence-based practices suggest that you can encourage people to volunteer, and that can help with these challenges, and then also offer peer support to individuals. So, one one study that we did, we looked at older adult peer support specialists text messaging other older adults who were age 65 years or older and they were homebound. And through these texting or chatting with an individual, we were able to see that they were able to simultaneously manage mental health and physical health issues, realizing new capabilities in late life. There was also sharing of roles as parents and grandparents, and then they offered wisdom. And this is really important because we know there's also evidence based practices that, in the event of offering wisdom to another person, you can begin to offset and develop some of the things that you need to do to stay well to impact loneliness among individuals. So, a few things you can do and encourage people to do when you're working with older adults could be having them stay in touch with a loved one. There's something called GrandPad, and so that is basically a tablet application that has been designed for older adults. And so it has very large font because remember there's normal eye changes uh, during the aging process. And so it has three different buttons you can press, and then it will connect you with a loved one or a friend that you add on your contact list. There's also Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. And so these are things that you wouldn't offer your services through because they're not HIPAA compliant. But when you're not available, you can encourage older adults to use Facebook Messenger, use WhatsApp, or use something like GrandPad. Also, within nursing homes, you can assigning a nursing facility staff member as a primary contact for families to facilitate inbound and outbound types of communication for individuals, and also fostering partnership with new entities such as local police, mail carriers, high school students, school bus drivers, to help individuals. What's really interesting is that when we think about community, it doesn't always have to be friends and family members. It could be people that we interact with every single day. So, one of which could be a Meals on Wheels delivery individual who's providing food to individuals. People are actually being trained for the Meals on Wheels delivery to offer interventions to people that they're delivering the food to. People also, if there's a bus driver, so there's an older adult and they have mobility challenges, and then they have a bus ride to a location, maybe it's church, maybe it's the gym. The bus drivers who are supporting those older adults getting from point A to point B are offering types of interventions as well to help support people. Few things you can also do to support individuals, again, when you're not available. You can talk to Well Connected by Covia. It connects individuals for virtual classes, conversations, activities, and it's both available in English and Spanish. And then there's also Lifetime Connections Without Walls. And so these are telephone activities providing opportunities for older adults to connect with others in their community and across the country using a telephone call system. And then you can see the number there as well. Another thing that's available through the Institute on Aging is a friendship line, and it could be both a crisis intervention hotline or a warm line for non-emergency emotional support calls. This is a 24-hour toll-free line, and the only accredited crisis line in the country for people aged 60 years and older and adults living with disabilities as well. So a few other things that you can do to help connect with people is encouraging people to volunteer, even going with them to volunteer somewhere. Also listening to free audiobooks and Audible. And then there's also a lot of work for LGBTQI older adults to help them connect within their broader community. And there's a telephone number there through SageLink to help this population too. So let's think about the role of family and caregivers. Now remember, caregivers in this case, it could be the person delivering mail. It could be the Meals on Wheels driver. So what we're learning is that maybe not everyone has a family member who is a caregiver. Well, there's other people in the community that people know that are their friends can help support them. So, here, if you have informed consent and you're able to talk to these individuals in the person's life, they can offer coping skills training and reinforcement to the person that they're serving, technology training and also reinforcement, help people problem solve, de escalate things at home. And then they might even see observations of new challenges and unmet need. Now, if you're a peer supporter, you generally will go into the home with individuals, or you'll see them virtually, and you discover things that physicians may not see because they see the older adult in the clinic environment. It's the same of a family member and caregiver. They are collaterals. Having conversations with them could help you really identify what these unmet needs may be or new challenges that you may not hear of. So here, you can foster these partnerships with individuals, and as you train and support your collaterals or these people within the older adult's life, they will support you as well. So, thinking about beyond mental health, again, it's not all about let's address a symptom of a mental health issue. It's other things like food, water, shelter. So there are websites out there like Amazon Fresh, Instacart, where food is actually brought into the individual's home. Some of these food delivery services take food vouchers to help support the individual who may be homebound. Now, through COVID-19, many people moved to mail order pharmacies. And so that may be another way as well to help support people get the medicine that they need without physically going into a location. And then, of course, there's things like YouTube. There's exercises for older adults that people can go to on videos. So these are the things that can support the whole person, not just mental health symptomatology. And if you need help finding any services for older adults, they call this the Elder Care Locator. And so here it's really interesting because it's funded by the American Community Living Administration, which is funded by the Older American Act. And here it shows services available for individuals within your respective location. So if you're in Boston, Massachusetts, you can see what services are available. If you're in Nebraska, you can see what services are available. And a lot of these services have moved online, but there's still brick and mortar places too. And again, remember, it's about preference. What will people want to engage with?